stopped there briefly because we had a tour time for Canyon X shortly after we saw Horseshoe Bend. So we didn't spend a whole lot of time there, but we really liked it. It was beautiful, of course. Canyon X was very neat. It wasn't as crowded as the main Antelope canyons that people go to.
Yeah,
so lower and upper canyons. So we really enjoyed the fact that we got to have time to, like, honestly, we had a few moments where we were just by ourselves. Like, we could take as many pictures as we wanted, and we had a really nice tour guide named Justin. Shout out to you, Justin. And it was like our whole group was only like 7 people. So, or was it more than that?
It was more than 7.
It was like 10, okay, maybe 12. I don't know, but it wasn't a lot. So it was a lot better than the other tours. Definitely recommend Canyon X. And then after that, we went into the town of Page, Arizona, where we had the best barbecue in Page, Arizona, probably, or in Arizona in general.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like called
Big John's Texas Barbecue.
Big John's Texas Barbecue. We got pork and all the sides, and it was very good. Their sauce was really good too. And then after that, we went to Monument Valley, and it was like a 2.5-hour drive from Page, and it kind of like blew us away because we got there like right around sunset, and we went to the View Hotel to watch sunset, and then from there we drove to the Forrest Gump Point, which is where in the movie he says, "I guess I'll go home now." And so we saw that view where he's at with all the monuments in the back, and it was just so cool because it's like flat all around, and then you've got these giant monument rock things that are just shooting up out of the ground, and they're all different. They all have like different shapes, and it's on the Navajo Nation reservation.
Yeah.
So it was like just really cool, like very remote. We felt like, wow, this would be a bad place to like have a flat tire, but you know, you're not that far from the town. You're about 30 minutes from the closest town where like there's a gas station and stuff, but out there it is remote, like very remote. Like talk about like the wild west. Like it was pretty crazy, but that's my take on it. It was a really cool day. Definitely recommend going out to Monument Valley and maybe just staying the night at the View Hotel. You know, because then you get to see sunset and sunrise, and it's the only place you can stay out there, and the view from there is like the best view of the whole Monument Valley.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was an awesome day, and so I'm gonna let Gabe do his take now.
I mean, I think you covered everything. I agree with what you said. I really enjoyed that day. Monument Valley was awesome. I think it was probably the coolest place that we went on our trip out to Arizona. So, I mean, Sedona was incredible. We loved our stay in Sedona. Like, it was definitely awesome, and would love to go back to Sedona sometime. Great place to stay. But as far as like one location that was like our favorite, I think Monument Valley was our favorite place that we went on that trip to Arizona. So definitely go there. It's 4 hours from Sedona to Monument Valley, so that's a long drive, but it's worth it. And we did, like she said, we did Antelope Canyon, Canyon X, Horseshoe Bend, which both of those are in Page, Arizona. And then we did that, which is 3 hours north from Sedona. And then you drive 2 to 2.5 hours east out to Monument Valley. And then from Monument Valley, it's 4 hours to get back down to Sedona. We did all of that in one day. It was a long day, but it was definitely worth it. One thing that we didn't mention, there was a snowstorm that night in Flagstaff, which our stay, throughout the time that we stayed in Arizona, there were 3 snowstorms that hit Flagstaff. So it made it difficult to travel north from where we were staying in Sedona. So that kind of limited what we could do going north. But it was still, we still got to do most of what we wanted to do. But anyways, the snowstorm hit that night, and so we had to drive through the snowstorm, and it was kind of difficult, but we did it and made
somebody has lost stuff and they're like brushing up against the canyon, does it damage it quite a bit?
Well, somewhat, kind of, yeah. Even so, what I've noticed is the oil on people's hands.
Oh yeah.
In a different canyon, there's this one area where everyone just kind of like they spills it.
Yeah.
That'll turn like darker almost.
Yeah.
But yeah, too also, and just want to preserve the canyon.
No, that makes total sense.
It's the highest canyon out of the 3 Antelope ones. The next one would be the upper Antelope, which is about around 80 feet average, around there. And then the next is lower. That one is about 60 feet average.
hit up 2 viewpoints in Monument Valley. One is called The View. It's actually at the View Hotel. And then we're going to look at Forrest Gump Point, which is a great place to watch sunset. And so we're going to go watch sunset there. Just another day in Flagstaff.